What's up everyone, Ivan from Darklas here, and today I'll give you some preset tips on how to use your Anagram for live performances. For this video I created 3 presets and I'm going to walk you through each one of them, show you the blocks, their settings, and why I chose them. To keep things familiar, all the samples are gonna be played with my GNLP bass, which is a tone that most people are gonna be comfortable with, and I've tailored the presets towards a working bass player situation. So they are tailored for a wedding / top 40 / function band scenario. Let's check out the screen of my Anagram and I'll walk you through the first preset. As you can see on the screen, we have the first preset called Top 40. And right now, all the foot switches are off. We are in stomp mode. And if I scroll through the screen, all the blocks that are active right now are the Peggy bass, a bass cabinet, a 6-band EQ, and a bus compressor. And this is how it sounds like. The tone control is fully open on my bass and the volume as well. Before I go into the settings of all the blocks that are currently active, let me tell you that when playing live, the most important thing is that you want to be as consistent as possible. This tone that you just heard would probably be my main sound for the majority of a performance, and then from there I would adjust either by plucking closer to the neck, towards bridge, or adjusting the tone control to get different sounds. Even with the exact same settings, tone control fully open, volume fully open, I can vary the sound if I adjust my technique. It is easy to overdo it in the digital world because you have all the options on the device. You can create split pads, you can change amps, cabinets with the push of a button, but we want to provide a very consistent tone, not only for the rest of your band members and so that you can also provide a steady and supportive bass tone for the music, but also for the person running sound in front of house. Because otherwise, if you change the sound completely from stomp to stomp, you're gonna have a hard time with the EQ, and also if you are sending very different output levels, they're also gonna have a hard time placing you in the mix. To show you what I have currently, if we go to the Peggy block, we have the ultra low off, the ultra high off. You can see that the bass is cut at 2. There's a mid-range boost at 7.3, and I'm using the selector on the 2nd position, and I'm pulling back the treble a little bit. Now, why am I pulling back the bass? This is because I have the cabinet block here, and that provides a quite considerable boost in the low end. So if I disengage it, you can hear that it's not as punchy as it was before. If I wanted to play without a cabinet, I would probably put the bass back at 5 and also maybe pull back the mid-range a little bit. Personally, I like using a cabinet, so that's why I have it there. But as a result, I do have to pull the bass back a little bit because it's easy also to boost too much bass for live performances, even more so if the stage has subs underneath, because the bass is going to be even more pronounced. So be careful with boosting bass if you're playing live and the stage has also subs. As you can see, I am boosting some mid-range to compensate the scoop that happens naturally when you add a cabinet. And when you're practicing at home or playing at home, it's easy to want to cut mid-range because it sounds better on its own. But live, for the same reason that the bass is gonna be very present, we need that mid-range to make the bass more audible and to have more articulation. So don't be afraid to boost some mid-range for your bass tones as well. I'm pulling a bit the treble, that's just personal taste, but as a general rule, usually for live tones, you need a little bit less treble than if you are recording, because the volume is a lot higher, so you're going to perceive the treble frequencies also much more clearly. So maybe it depends, of course, on the bass and what kind of music you're playing, but don't be afraid also to pull back a little bit on the treble because it can get harsh if you boost too much. For the cabinet, I'm using the Peggy 4x10 combined with an SM7B style of microphone, and I have the microphone in the cone position, which is a good mix between high definition and warmth. And I like the SM7B because it has a good punchy low end, but also good mid-range, which helps to be audible in the mix as well. For the EQ, I have the generic EQ and I am boosting 800 Hz quite a bit, as you can see. And this is for the same reason. We need that mid-range to be heard live, even more so when using a cabinet. And also a little bit of the upper mids, 1.5 kilohertz, for also just a little bit more definition up top. If I bypass the EQ, it's not very drastic, but it definitely adds. It definitely places the bass much more forward, and as I mentioned, live, the bass is going to be a lot louder, the treble is going to be a lot louder, so it naturally creates sort of a scooped tone, and we need the mid-range to be heard. For the compressor, I have a 4:1 ratio, 30 millisecond attack, a pretty fast release, 0.1 seconds, and the output gain is set to 0, and blending a little bit of my clean signal just to compensate. And in general, the compressor is there to even out the different tones that I have set to each foot switch. So it's not necessarily just to even out my playing, but just to balance all the tones that I have there, regardless of whether I'm using some of the effects or not. Now for the effects, I have assigned all 3 foot switches in stomp mode, and I have a drive, which is a macro, I have an octaver, and I have some chorus. On the chain view, if I engage the drive, we have 3 things that turn on at the same time. The harmonic booster, the vintage microtubes, and the Douglas 6-band EQ. The harmonic booster is there just to add a little bit of gain going into the vintage microtubes. I could also place a gain block in there, but I wanted to add this one just in case I want also to have some pre-EQ going into the drive. The vintage microtubes has the drive all the way cranked, the era all the way cranked. I'm pulling a little bit of the level just to match the on and off sound, and the blend is at 40% to retain some of the natural clean tone. And then the 6-band EQ, I am boosting some low end to compensate for the lack of low end that happens no matter which drive you're using. 3 dB is not too much, it's just to bring it up to the level it was before. And also boosting a little bit of upper mid-range again, just to push the drive and make it a bit more forward. And this is how it sounds like. Without the drive. As you can hear, the overall balance remains the same, it's just that you hear more of that drive, more of that mid-range coming through, which thickens things up a little bit when you engage it. It's not a really in-your-face kind of distortion is just to really push the bass slightly forward without being too aggressive. For the second effect, we have the sub-lemon, and this is just in case you need to hit any lower notes, or if you need to play something more like synth-like, although we have one preset especially for that. And here we are pulling a little bit of the clean level and boosting a little bit of the octave level, because I want the octave to be a bit more present than the clean level. But you can of course adjust to your taste. Just remember what I said before, that we want to be as consistent as possible, so you probably don't want to overly boost frequencies like this. You know, 5 and 5, it's definitely a good starting point. Or you can also just go like this. And if you open up the filter, it's definitely up to taste. And for the last effect, I have a chorus, which is useful for a lot of 80s rock pop songs. And that would be the main tone or core sound of this preset. As I said, a lot would be adjusting technique and then adding the drive if needed, or the octave, or the chorus. You can also slap with this. And it definitely works. Now the next preset is exactly the same as before, because as I mentioned, we want to keep things consistent, but it's made to work with a pick or plectrum. I've made some slight adjustments to balance the sound, but in general is the same. And just to give you an example, I'm going to play. Now with fingers. The low end remains pretty consistent between both of them, and what I've done is that I've boosted a little bit the low end on the Peggy bass amp to compensate for the normal lack of low end of a pick. And since we want to keep things consistent for front of house and for the overall sound, I boosted some low end. You can, of course, if you want, add more things or different things. You could add maybe a different drive or a fuzz if you want to, but the main sound remains the same. It's just that when you need to play a song with a pick, you can swap to this preset and your sound is going to be balanced. For the drive here, I've also adjusted a little bit the character, because a pick is going to naturally change the way a distortion sounds. It's going to be more forward, so I adjusted the settings a little bit on the drive. You have slightly less drive, different level and different blend amount. But other than that, the preset is exactly the same. Now the last preset is a synth style tone, which for us bass players is pretty common to have to play synth-like bass lines. And to keep things consistent, I just copied the preset from before, pasted it on the next slot, so the amp is the same and the cabinet is the same, and from that I built the rest of the effects that I needed to get a synth sound. So the Peggy amp is the same, the Peggy 4x10 cabinet is the same. I added a slightly different EQ. It's 3.4 dB on 800 Hz and 1.9 dB or pretty much 2 dB on 1.6 kilohertz. Now on this part of the screen, I have what makes the synth sound like a synth, and that is the green pirate fuzz, an envelope filter, some chorus, a gain just to balance the level of all the blocks going into the compressor. And I also have a toggle for the sub-lemon octaver here. So this is how it sounds like. If I engage the sub-lemon, I can also disable the envelope filter. For a different kind of synth tone, but this is, again, based on the same core sound. So I took the same amp, the same cabinet, and then from there I built the rest. Now, from the green pirate fuzz, I have very little distortion, 2 only. I don't have the tone enabled. The level is pretty low and the blend is at 50%. And this is just to bring up a little bit of saturation going into the envelope filter and then going also into the other blocks. Because if I bypass it, it sounds a bit grittier, a bit more like an analog kind of device. So adding just a little bit of drive helps to push your sound a bit forward. You don't have to really be too dramatic with the distortion amount. Just a little bit goes a long way, depending on the situation. Then we have the envelope filter. I have a pretty high envelope amount. Envelope mix also pretty high. The drive is also high. And the filter cutoff is pretty low. If I bypass this, and if I turn the envelope amount, it just doesn't open up too much. And if I were to open the cutoff, it just doesn't have that quacky effect. If I pull back on the resonance, this is also like a preference thing where you want that peak on the top end. And if I bring in the fuzz, and if I bring in the sub-lemon, now the chorus is there just to bring a little bit of movement to the sound, sort of like a, a synthesizer that moves, kind of like an oscillator kind of vibe. We have it in stereo, depth at 5, pretty low rate, and also the blend is pulled back, and the high pass filter is in the mid position because we don't want to put a chorus on the entire low end. And to demonstrate the effect, I'm going to engage the sub-lemon and the fuzz and turn the chorus off. Now if I engage it, you can hear the pulse effect of the chorus. Without it, adding the chorus definitely brings quite a bit of vibe to the tone. Now let's swap back and forth between my normal preset and the synth preset. So there you have it. I think these 3 presets are a good starting point for a working bass player that needs to cover quite a bit of ground in a cover band situation. As I mentioned before, you can find these presets on the Douglas suite and download them and then tweak them to your liking. I hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.